In this video, I'm going to talk about globals in Godot and setting up something like a score variable. So what we'll want with our game is for it to have a score. It's pretty common for games to keep score, but we want to keep track of perhaps how many bugs have been collected before one gets eaten by the bird. And the thing about Godot, and this is common in a lot of game engines, it's not specific to Godot, is that a scene is kind of self-contained. This scene exists, only the things in it exist. When it goes on to the main scene, everything that was in my start scene is destroyed. Nothing carries over. And the score is something that needs to carry over because we want that to be something we add to in the main game, and then in our end scene, the score is going to be something we can display. We can say something like, oh, you died, but you got 27 bugs or whatever. And that should change based on how many bugs you got. So if you collected 3, it should say 3. If it collected 5, it should say 5. So what we need is a global variable. And so I'm going to show you how to set that up in Godot. So these are only things that need to carry over from one scene to the next. You don't need them for things that are just going to be within a current scene, like say our lizard's health or something like that. So the first thing we do is need to create a script to hold our variables that are going to need to be carried over. So I'm going to go to the script tab, and where it says file, we can say new script, and I'm going to call this GameManager.dd. We haven't renamed our scripts because usually they just take the name of whatever we're putting them on, but in this case I want to give it a name that's a little different. I want GameManager.script, and you could call this whatever, but it's going to be our game manager, so that kind of makes sense, and then we're going to create it. And you can have whatever, of course, functions and stuff you need, but in this case what we want is a variable. So I'm going to create a variable called score and set it equal to 0. I'm going to go ahead and save that really quickly. And now to make it so that this score and anything else in the script, other variables or whatever, are something we can access from anywhere in our game, we go up to Project, and we go to Project Settings, and we're going to look for Auto Load, and Path, and I'm going to select my GameManager.gd, open, and name Game Manager, that's good, that's why we named it that, and hit Add. And so you'll see that it shows up here now. And yes, you want this to be enabled. And we'll hit close. And so what we can do now is use this score from pretty much anywhere. So for example, my lizard, let me open up my lizard script real quick, can access the score. For example, you can see I've set up a score very briefly in here, but that's only for my lizard. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And delete the one here. And let's look at how to create that score. So the way we access this is we can't just say score, because score will only get something that's in this particular script. So we need the name that we gave it. So Game Manager, again, capitalization is important, GameManager.score. And we want this not when he hits the enemy, that's not where we want it. We want this when he hits the collectible. So I'm going to say GameManager.score. And what we want to do is add 1 to that. So we add 1 to a variable by taking the variable, GameManager.score, and adding 1 to it. The math can be a little weird conceptually in programming, but it's something you just kind of got to get used to. What we're doing here is taking whatever values in Game Manager, so right now that would be 0, but as we collect, we should be adding to it, so it could be any number. Add 1 to whatever's there, and put that value back into the score. And just so we can see it, I think I've shown you this before, we're going to print that out to the screen. So let's see that let's check and make sure all this stuff works. So I'm going to run my game. There's my lovely start scene. We're going to start the game, and I'm going to move this a little bit so you can see what's happening in my console. So every time I hit my bug there, you can see it's printing out a number, and that is my score. And so you can use that to keep track of the score and also to show what the player's score was when you add in your end game scene. So one more thing I want to show you with that. We might want to display the score on the screen. So very quickly, I'm going to put together a screen overlay for a heads-up display for my game. So I'm going to do this super quick. You should already know how to create new scenes and do all this stuff. Alright, so what I've done here is I've created a GUI scene with a label up in the top corner. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to my inspector and I'm just going to type some text in here just so I can see what it looks like. Alright, so you can see my score up here. I'm going to move it down just a little bit so it's not quite there. Now you would probably want to go ahead and add your custom font to this so you can make it a little bigger because that's not really very big. And we're going to make it so that this displays what our current score is. So I'm going to head back quickly to my main game. I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to save this real quick. Save this, I saved it as GUI. We're going to add that to my main. So remember, GUI.tscene is what you want. And you got to add it to main there. And I'm going to show you quickly how to set that score up. So I've already got a script on here called GUI. And what I'm going to do is during my process, we are simply going to take the score, which I should probably rename score with lowercase c, and we are just going to change the text in there. Now remember, you can get children with the $sign and then its name, and we use text equals, and we want to say the word score, or at least I do, colon, space, you got to put spaces in there if you want them, plus, and then we got to change it to a string, game manager dot score. So what we're doing here is putting into score.text, and it's saying down here game manager is not declaring current scope because I spelled it wrong. So always triple check, quadruple check your spelling. So we're going to put into our label the word score colon space and then the score, which is a number made into a string, which means letters. You can only set it to text. You've got to change it from the number 0 to the character 0. So let's run. Let's go to the main scene here real quick. Save that. And I'm going to do a run scene, so we just see that one. As you can see, I start out with a score of 0. And as I collect things, my score goes up. And then you'll want to also display whatever the final score is on the end scene when the player dies. All right, good luck.